All right, what's up, YouTube? So I just shot a 25-minute video and I started watching it. It was ungodly boring. So I'm going to do it way faster and just review some stuff I've been doing lately because I got to get back on in the habit of doing these. So first off, if I can, you know, I'm looking at my phone backwards, but hopefully you can see I'm wearing a Fingers of Fury sweatshirt. Kind of cool. But so I'm going to go over what I've been doing. So I watched the video last time. I had just been going over the pinch. I had it not textured yet. So I've got it textured. I've been using it a bit. And again, on the video that I just made, I kind of went over how I've been using it and all that, and it was boring as shit. So I'm going to skip all that and not make a 25-minute video that I would never watch. So here it is. It looks great. Again, the effect on the thumb is really pronounced. These are slopey, or they end up being slopey feeling when you're using it. And these are nice crimps. And then a bonus mono. And again, at some point I'll do a video on this pinch specifically where I can drone on about how I use it and why it's been great. But for right now, I'm just gonna say, hey, look at this. It looks good. It's been great, and move on. And so last time I spoke on video, I hadn't had the Big Bosses restocked. And actually, I'll bring up that I did do a slight redesign of this eyelet. It matches all of my other products at this point. The Baby Boss had an eyelet designed like this. This used to have a triangle eyelet. Why, I don't know. I just really like triangles. Whenever I design something, for some reason, I try and force it to be a triangle. It's a weird thing that I do. But so this is the version 2, let's call it, Big Boss. Not all of them have been textured yet, but these are in stock on the website now. It's a little bit lighter. It's still a 20 millimeter depth, but this has changed to a 21. I forget what the original was, but this isn't really to make it feel any deeper. It's really just a visual as to where your fingers go when you're using it as a single-handed device. And I will now try and find... I have, well, check this out. I'll talk about this later, but I also have added to the website these inserts. So they fit in the slot, and it works off of a flexure design. So the dimension here is slightly less than, I believe this is 1 inch dimension on the inside, and this is forced down and presses up against the wall to keep it in. So, you know, whether you're putting 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these in here, they hold in there by themselves without any use of magnets that would just add to the cost of the product for no reason. And so again, they're cheap and they hold in there fine. And I have used not this product, but the one over here, by just filling it with the inserts and then just clipping it to my bouldering pad and just walking around with it, jostling around, and they don't fall out. So they're in there quite nice. They won't fall out, but then when you need to take them out, they come right out. So those work perfect. So next thing I'll talk about is this. So I'm gonna call the 3 products my Boss lineup. So we've got the Big Boss somewhere over there. I've got a stack of Baby Bosses, and then this will be the Final Boss. The Final Boss is very similar to the Big Boss. It looks almost exactly the same, but I thinned a lot of stuff out. This is thinner. Again, the styling is the same, except when you flip it over, I took out all this extra material. But you need it on this side to have the radius, so you can't just have no material here underneath the where your fingers go, because you need a radius. So it needs to be at least as thick as where the radius ends, give you a little flat, and a chamfer to break the edge, or a chamfer, radius, whatever the preference is there. So I take quite a bit of material out of this whole thing, still add my logo on it, and the intention here is to make the lightest possible two-handed portable hangboard. And so for this, where this falls in for me is the Big Boss. It can 100% be used at the crag. It's comparable in weight to a lot of other wood boards. And again, now you can add your inserts if you want and have whatever edge size you need. But this is for people that just want a super light hangboard. It's going to be more packable, and That's my intention. So this is what I've been bringing out to the crag, and the Big Boss is what I use for my home workouts personally. So this weighs half a pound. So I think this is, I'm guessing, unless you're using a one-handed wood portable hangboard, this would be the lightest. I guess I can't call it a full size, but it is a two-handed version. And so again, even with the inserts, and so what I have behind it, which I haven't mentioned, is this little pouch I've been experimenting with. So as you can see, I've got this weatherproof pouch with this cool fabric on the inside that it fits in perfectly with. And then I've got my sling and a carabiner. And when I was taking it around, I also had, I forget if it was 6 or 8 of these inserts, but with this packed with 6 inserts or 6 or 8 inserts, a sling, the board, and a carabiner, I believe this all weighed less than a pound. So that's the final boss. I'm not sure how I'm going to release this yet, but I'm really just talking about it in my Instagram stories and I guess on my YouTube now. Then moving on, we've got this edge, which, up until now I've made all like portable hangboard products, but that isn't really by intention. I've always wanted to have some hangboards and these edges, and just have been stuck making portable hangboards because that's what people wanted, at least at the moment. So this is a 7mm edge, and the idea behind this is that it's pretty much all radius. So even though it's a 7mm edge, this is much harder than most 7mm edges that are out there on hangboards or micro edge sets. So it's a 7mm edge, but it feels much worse than a 7mm edge. I can hang a 7mm edge, and I can't currently hang this, and it is 3D printed plastic, so it's kind of slick. So I might have a chance at hanging this once I make it out of aluminum and texture it. So that's the idea of the edge size and the radius. But then I also have this thumb catch. Having a thumb catch in and of itself is nothing new, but the shape of it, it's odd to say, is new. I haven't seen somebody use this simple of a shape. I usually see a angled flat, which makes sense because your finger or your thumb seems to make that angle when you go to crimp your finger. You can see it's at an angle, but it never felt that great to me. And what does feel good is when the thing that I'm pressing up against feels like my finger, which is round. So I made this round, like duh. So that's what it is. It's a round thumb catch that feels like a comfortable finger that you've got it resting on. So all of my micro edges will come with that, and these will be available as sets or individual pairs when I put them up. So I'm thinking I'll do a 7mm, a 10, a 13, and a 16. So do 3mm jumps in between them. And I'll have a bunch of these on the website when they do come out. I'm not sure how many yet because I've got a bunch of stock, but not sure exactly how much. But this is one of the next things that's actually coming. This and a newly designed or newly redesigned mono, and the new mono is actually going to be this style of lightning to it. So the new mono will kind of look like a really small version of the Big Boss, Baby Boss, but like with this lightened up on it. And it's going to be, my original one was either 25 or 30mm. I'm just going to keep it at 20. I've been training monos at a 20mm depth on the pinch block, and that feels perfect to me. And when I tried to use my mono that I made originally, I believe it's a 30mm, to be honest, it just bunches up my skin. I don't need to come this far down on my fingers. It actually made it more uncomfortable than anything. So I'm sticking with the 20mm depth on my monos that are coming out that I'm not even showing right now. But so last, but maybe not least, is been working on these Unlevel edges. And so I started off by not looking at anybody else's designs. This is something that a lot of people have been asking me to do, and it's just not it hasn't been something that I personally had a lot of interest in. I don't know what I think about it yet, but if I was going to do it, I wanted to work through it on my own. So this is the first one, and again, for some reason, I don't know why, I always make everything triangles. I mean, look, there's another triangle on this hole here. Everything's got to be triangles with me for some reason until I make it and I go, why did I make it a triangle? But here we go. So I made an error, and I knew how they're supposed to work, or but I wasn't trying to steal anyone's design. So when I designed my own, I really messed up the gap between the fingers. And so what I thought it could be similar to the gap in between my fingers on my hand, and that's not what it is. It's really, where your fingers sit once they're curled up into the half crimp position. Obvious, as soon as you make something like this and you're like, I messed up, and then you move on and you try this, which looks like a baby boss, but with the steps added, and the distance in between the steps is much less. So I use this, and I do feel the effect that you're supposed to look for when you use this, where I feel a little bit more loading on my pinky, but it's not super pronounced, but I do feel it on this. And a lot of people, as I'm sharing this on my Instagram stories, will point out that I did a centered eyelet underneath the middle finger, which you need to have to do it right, either two different sides where the eyelet, or the mounting point of where you're adding the weight, changes, meaning in the center of your hand, because the center of your hand is not the center of your middle finger like it's set up here. So I did this one, which has a swappable eyelet point or carabiner point on it. And so I did notice a difference. To be honest, it wasn't a lot, and that's kind of what I suspected, is that the angle change made by being a 1/4 inch off from being centered in your hand probably wasn't going to add that much effect, but it did. But or at least it added a noticeable amount, but not a crazy amount. So did that, and then I tried to take it one step further and say, okay, can I make it pronounced? So I added the center hole back, and then I added 2 holes at an extreme. And the idea there was, can I put the eyelet, the carabiner, in an eyelet that's further up on my pinky, which this isn't something you could do on a flat edge, because as it canted, you'd kind of slip towards one side. So with these steps kind of in the way, can I choose to train, say, my outside fingers more than my inside fingers? So like I've noticed is that my pinky and my ring finger are way weaker than my 2 inside fingers. So it would be perfect for me if I could put a carabiner in there and load the outside of my hand, or choose to load the inside of my hand based on my carabiner placement. And the answer is yes, I can, but it wasn't that pronounced. And this seems like kind of a clunky design, so I'll probably not be exploring that idea much further. But what I will be exploring is this angle on the back here is really just for 3D printing purposes, but in the final design, what it will have is something here. And what people have been telling me that have the Big Boss is this isn't a like sanctioned use of it. I didn't intend for people to use it this way. This is really just for style points in the back here, is this little notch, but people thought that that was a hold. So they've been using it and they've been loving it. So I thought, if you want an unlevel edge, but you also think it would be cool to have a knot or a regular, a level edge on the back, I can add that on the back here. With the placement of the eyelet, it's going to make it feel like a bit of a slopey edge. It's going to move the board like this when you're using it. So it's going to feel like it's sloping away from you slightly, but that's also going to make it feel really comfortable and be a perfect edge for people to train on. So you'll have your unlevel edge, and on the other side, you'll have your level edge. So it'll be a 2-in-1 deal, most likely, when I finally land on a design for that. So right now I'm just doing the steps and messing with the different things you can mess with that, but I want to try an arc, and then I'm going to call it the lumpy arc, but it's like an arc where you put indentations in for each finger and see what feels the best or what gives me the most pronounced effect. And again, trying to have some value adds on it, like the additional pocket on the back, stuff that only I can do because I'm making it out of aluminum. So I want to take full advantage of the materials that I'm using before I release something like this. So been working on that. So gonna call it there, guys. I'm at about 15 minutes, and that's not so bad, and I'm done. Thanks.